The airport was alive with its usual chaos. Rolling suitcases rattled against tile floors, announcements crackled over loudspeakers, and travelers weaved through the terminal with that peculiar mix of impatience and exhaustion. Victor Wallace walked through it all, like the place was built just for him. He wasn't a man who blended into a crowd. No, Victor was the kind who made himself known. The gleam of his $1,000 shoes, the cut of his tailored navy suit, the heavy gold watch hugging his wrist. Everything about him screamed wealth, power, and ego. People stepped aside when he walked past. Some recognized his face from business magazines. Others just recognized the attitude, the entitled arrogance of someone who had more money than manners. When the boarding announcement for Flight 782 was called, Victor was already there at the front of the line, waving his platinum boarding pass like a king flashing his crown. Inside the first-class cabin, flight attendants swarmed around him, greeting him with their most polished smiles. Victor basked in it, nodding like he was royalty, cracking jokes loud enough for everyone to hear. He lived for moments like this when the world felt smaller and he felt bigger. And then, he noticed her. A young woman already seated near the window in row 2. She wore simple blue jeans and a plain white blouse, nothing flashy, no jewelry, no makeup beyond the basics. A canvas tote rested by her feet, not a designer purse, not even leather. To Victor, she looked out of place. He narrowed his eyes, then smirked, leaning closer to the flight attendant at his side. Loud enough for her to hear, he asked, "What's going on here? Did economy start sending raffle winners up here or something?" The attendant flushed. "Sir, please." But Victor was already talking louder. "I mean, look at her. First class, really? What's the occasion? First time on a plane?" The young woman lifted her gaze from the book in her lap. Her eyes were calm, steady, but there was something in them, something sharp enough to cut through his mockery. "I have a ticket," she said softly. "Same as you." Her words were polite, but Victor laughed. A cruel, dismissive laugh. "Sure you do. Let me guess. You saved up all year to sit up here? That's cute. No handbag, no jewelry, no presents? You don't belong in this section, sweetheart." Passengers nearby shifted uncomfortably. A businessman across the aisle frowned. A mother with her child whispered, "That's enough," under her breath. But no one spoke up directly. Victor's reputation preceded him. He was known to crush anyone who challenged him, in business or otherwise. The young woman didn't argue. She simply closed her book and turned toward the window, letting his words fall away. But that silence, that refusal to play into his game, only fueled him further. "Enjoy the fantasy while it lasts," he sneered. "Someday maybe you'll really belong here. Until then, pretend all you want." The engines roared. The plane lifted into the night sky. Victor reclined, sipping champagne, relishing his own performance. He thought he had humiliated her. He thought he had proven once again that money made him untouchable. But Victor Wallace had no idea who he was talking to. Her name was Alexandra Hayes, not only did she belong in first class, she owned more of the high airline stock than Victor ever dreamed of. Her family controlled a financial empire that stretched across continents. Her personal fortune was measured in billions that dwarfed his. But Alexandra wasn't one to flaunt wealth. She believed in living with humility, dressing simply, and never letting her net worth dictate her worth as a person. And tonight, that belief would unravel Victor's empire of arrogance. Hours later, the wheels of Flight 782 screeched against the runway. Seatbelts clicked open, passengers reached for their bags, and Victor was first to his feet, eager to strut off the plane before anyone else. He turned back toward Alexandra one last time. "Well," he said with a smirk, "hope you enjoyed your little adventure." "Back to reality for you." Alexandra didn't answer. She didn't need to, because the moment Victor stepped into the jet bridge, reality hit him harder than he could ever imagine. 6 men in black suits stood waiting. Broad-shouldered, sharp-eyed, moving with military precision. They weren't airline staff. They weren't TSA. They were private security, serious, professional, unmistakable. One stepped forward. "Mr. Wallace, you'll need to come with us." Victor blinked. "Excuse me? Do you have any idea who I am?" Another agent held up a badge, cold and precise. "Yes, sir. We know exactly who you are. And we're here at the request of Ms. Alexandra Hayes. Victor froze. The name alone hit him like ice water. Alexandra Hayes. He knew the name. Everyone in finance did. But, he turned slowly, his eyes widening. There she was, walking calmly behind him, still in her simple jeans and blouse, still carrying her canvas tote. Only now, she was surrounded by a quiet force of respect. The agents moved around her like she was royalty. Passengers behind them gasped, realization rippling through the cabin. Phones came out, recording every second. The woman Victor had mocked wasn't some ordinary traveler. She was one of the most powerful women in the country. Victor stammered, his face draining of color. Wait, no, this is a mistake. She doesn't look like... Alexandra finally spoke, her voice clear and commanding. You judged me because of what I wore. You mocked me because I didn't fit your shallow idea of wealth. You thought appearances defined worth. Tonight you'll learn a different lesson. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply acts. Her security tightened their grip on Victor as he flailed. His protests meant nothing. The cameras were already capturing it all. The internet would see this man, the so-called billionaire, being escorted out like a criminal, humiliated by the very arrogance he wore like a crown. Ma'am, the lead officer asked her, would you like us to file charges for harassment? The terminal hushed. Passengers leaned in. Alexandra looked Victor in the eyes. For a moment, the arrogant billionaire was nothing more than a scared man. No, she said at last. Let him walk out there. The cameras have judged him already. His punishment is that the world now knows exactly who he is, and with that, she turned and walked away. Calm, graceful, untouchable. Victor Wallace was dragged through the airport, flashing bulbs and recording phones surrounding him. His empire of arrogance collapsed in real time. By morning, the videos would spread across social media. Headlines would write themselves, "Billionaire brought down by the heiress. He mocked on a plane." And the world would remember one simple truth. Money might buy you a seat in first class, but respect. That can't be bought. It has to be earned. Respect is worth more than money. It's something you can't buy, only earn. If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful storytelling. And tell us in the comments, what lesson did you take away from this story?